Got it. Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So Matt has returned back to his post here for his chatting skills and all of his other technical wizardry that this guy performs. So welcome back to everybody that's here today on Friday. Yes, we shifted from yesterday to today. There's a few of you, I think, that thought we were on yesterday, which is fine. Of course, you'll always have the opportunity to go back and watch our videos. They're posted up to the Royal LePage Signature portal, and you'll be able to go over the content again. Today's session is on listing presentations that you're prepared for. And this is where, I say the rubber hits the road, or we get kind of really serious about our business. Working with buyers, which is what we talked about last week, is usually the path of least resistance for realtors when they first come into business. It's easier to work with buyers, let's put it out there, than it is to work with listings and putting the paperwork together, negotiating your fees and whatnot. So a lot of newer realtors, sadly, they avoid the listing process. And I say they avoid that, and they avoid that at their peril. In our industry, there's an old expression, and that expression is list to last. You may have heard that, or it may be a new term for you, but I was told this term in my very first year in 1992, and it literally cemented the fact to me that I needed to list properties and not just work with buyers. If you look at the listing, and I'll use an analogy, it's like the grocery store or the clothing store or the mall that you go to. Our listings are the inventory that you would find at the grocery store, at the mall, at the clothing store. If you're not putting inventory on your shelves, then your consumers, your customers, clients, they stop going to see you. So a listing essentially for you as a operator is your inventory. And so as our brokerage, because of the scale of our operations, we have lots of listings, lots of opportunities. It's our inventory. And for you, you should be really mindful of that when you are out there, that listings should take priority. There's another old joke regarding retired realtors. And of course, we never retire in our business, or oftentimes you very rarely go to a retirement party, because realtors just become not retired, they become list. There's my joke for today. So you become listless, you forget to, or you omit to do listings. So instead of retiring, you just become list. There's a double entendre there for everybody as well. So hopefully, start your day with a joke and a laugh. So we are talking about listings. I'm going to share with you how I approached the listing process. Again, as I've said to you before, you take what I say with a grain of salt. If you think there's some value adds to what you're currently doing right now, by all means, use what I'm talking about. If not, then continue doing what you're doing, and that's fine by me. I'm just sharing with you literally the inside of my operations. If there was ever an opportunity for me to go back into selling, if I ever said, okay, I want to go back into the trenches with you guys, I would be really literally reinvigorating what I've shared in the first two classes, this class and the subsequent classes. But thus far, I'm not doing that, so no competition for you right now. But anyways, we're going to talk about listing presentation. And one of the cool things, my last slide that I'm going to go over with you is my fee for service model. And it was an opportunity for me to really put on pen and paper what my fees were going to be. Because let's get the elephant out of the room. When you go to a listing presentation, there's always going to be two things that you're going to have to deal with. Does anybody want to throw in the chat to Matt what the two things on every listing presentation they're going to have to deal with?
A second type.
Okay.
An order says commission reduction.
Fees.
And three that says price and commission.
And price. There we go. I've never really been on a listing presentation in my career where those two topics did not materialize. So we know we have to be very good. In fact, we got to be better than good. We got to be better than the person we're walking into their home, a better salesperson on why our fee and the price we're suggesting is the right one. Because in that environment, there is a sales, that's not working. Because in this environment, when you're walking in, there is a sale happening. You're either selling them on your fee and your price strategy, or they're selling you on what your fee should be and what your price strategy should be, which I always thought that was an interesting dynamic. So I always came as prepared as I could. You'll see one of my most famous and favorite, not my quote, but one of my most favorite quotes of history from a guy named Miguel de Cervantes. I'll wait till the end, but Matt, this is not going to come up here, is it?
I don't know. It's near the bottom. Near the bottom.
The bottom.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we got the measles. Let's just do that. Oh, measles. Okay. Okay, what did I do? Matt.
I don't know. It's.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. I got rid of the measles. I got my shot. Okay, so we'll start into the course. I like to use statistics. Statistics are a great thing. By the way, I came across a really cool one yesterday in some more of my research. Forget about this for a second. 44%, write this number down. In the latest Leger survey of Canadian consumers, 44% of them do not trust realtors in the real estate transaction. Imagine that, 44%. You can source that study if you just Google Leger real estate study. But I thought that was shocking that 44% of all consumers do not trust realtors in the transaction. There's others that they don't trust either, lenders, mortgage brokers, building inspectors, but we actually are at the top of the list, which to me, let's not get upset about that. Just let's get better at building trust. That's why I've always advocated, as you've seen in the first two classes, the relationship model with a client, with a prospect, right? So here we go. This was a study done, 12 years ago, 13 years ago by NAR, National Association of Realtors. That's the American version, like what we have here in Canada called the Canadian Real Estate Association. And they did some studies about, what's the likelihood of when realtors and the seller will sign on the piece of paper. So in this one, 66% of sellers only contacted one realtor to work with. Actually, you know what? That's pretty cool because it's 34% here. There's an extra 10 in that other survey, but I bet you out of this 66%, a lot of these people trusted the person they were calling and knew the person they were calling and liked the person they were calling. So 66% of people only contacted one realtor to work with. 19-2, 15 interviewed 3 or more. And 63% in this study would definitely use their realtor again or would recommend their realtor. So my objective every time when I was looking at doing a listing was, one, to be the first guy in. That was my strategy. There's others that will say, no, I want to be the last person in, but I wanted to be the first person in because I knew the likelihood is that I have a 2/3 opportunity to get them signed before somebody else. And I didn't want the opportunity for another realtor to come in and impress them and get a signature, get a listing, and then I get a phone call saying, hey, Mike, we have to cancel our appointment for tomorrow. So I was always, in my system, wanting to be the first one in because I was playing the numbers games, like being at a casino, go play the numbers. What are your odds? Well, my odds are if I'm the first one in, the highest likelihood is I'm going to walk away with a signed contract. Makes sense, right? Number 2, your initial point of contact. Big importance. Put the seller at ease. Be friendly and smile while you are talking with them. Your smile is contagious. It puts them in a good place. If you're frowning, if you're coming in and you got 10,000 things on your mind and you're distracted, these things affect the relationship that you're building with them. Here's some questions that And you'll discover as you evolve your career, you're going to develop hundreds of questions that you're going to have just at the tip of your brain. And these are some of the ones that I used to use when getting a phone call for a listing. So this was always my first one. Well, how did this person come about calling me? How did you hear about me? And as my business evolved, most of them came by referrals. But the ones that came by maybe a flyer I had out, well, I wanted to know that. Did my flyer get a response? We talked about response rates last week being 0.005%. Well, if I'm putting flyers out and I got 10 calls for listing appointments, then, hey, my flyering is working because why? I'm knocking doors, I'm doing events in the community, I'm sponsoring things. So I want to know where they came from. This is cool. When are they moving? We talked about that last week. You're going to systemize them not just on A plus A's as types of relationships, but A's, A pluses, B's on the time frame of when they want to move. Why are they moving? Did they get a promotion? Did they lose a job, unfortunately, right? Is there a addition to the family? Is there a health problem? These are important things to discover and uncover. Why are they moving? Okay. What are the best features? And I'm going to share with you later one of my presentations that I used to use. That was what I provided with them in that presentation. The top 10 list, 10 list, top 10 list of what they liked about their home. I want them to tell me what it is about their home that they like and enjoy the most. Why? Because I can convert that into marketing for myself in promoting the listing. Chances are what they really like and love about their house, a potential buyer is going to like and love that as well. This one here, always, before I step foot in the front door of their house, I wanted to get a kind of litmus test or just a temperature reading of what they thought their house was worth, because it's going to actually form how I structure my strategy going in. So, if they've lived there for 40 years, they may have absolutely no idea and undervalue significantly their property. If they bought their house within the last year or 2 years, maybe they've inflated the value of their house in spite of the fact that we've had market corrections. So this was something I always wanted to understand and determine. What do you think your house is worth in today's market?
Is it a good idea to do that prior to an evaluation?
Yes.
Because it might disappoint them or
no,
make them second guess their decision.
Yes, it's good points, great points. For me, I wanted just to have that insight of where they're coming from, right? So I'm not saying that this is the best, you've got to do it this way. If you're doing it the other way and not asking those questions and just showing up with information, that's completely fine as well. But I always operated with, I want more knowledge than I need, basically. And that one there would form the strategy. So if they had overvalued their property, it gave me that strategy to go in where I know I have to focus there. Because here's the thing, folks. If you can't agree on the price of the home that you're going to list at or the strategy that you want to deploy, there's no sense in even talking about the commission or fee. Would you all agree? Right? If the house is worth $1 million, but they want 1.3 for that house, why are we even talking about a fee or any of the other services we're going to be talking about? We don't have what in our business we called a bona fide listing. Everybody know what a bona fide listing is? Nope. A bona fide listing is a listing we take that has the ability to attract a buyer in the marketplace, where that buyer in the marketplace and the seller in the marketplace can come to terms to sell a property. That's a bona fide listing. If we're listing something that is grossly overvalued, we do not have a bona fide listing. Unless you're a magician, David Copperfield, Penn and Teller, you're not selling the property you've actually put yourself in a situation where you will be babysitting a listing for the term of it 90 days, 120, and it'll unfortunately, as I've said before, the psychic vampire analogy, it'll suck your energy and your soul basically for other business that you're working on. So great question, great observation. I just like to know where they were sitting because, as I said, the two things we know we're talking about is our fee and our price. For me, if I couldn't agree on the price, I never even talked about the fee. Okay, there's no way I'm taking a listing that's not a bona fide listing. I used to use my numbers as well. And this is something that a lot of you should think about. Like, what is your listing to sales ratio? Meaning, if you've taken 50 listings and you've sold 40 of them, well, you've got an 80% success rate, right? Just simple math like that. I didn't want to take something that I knew I couldn't sell because that would bring my ratio down. And so when I would do a listing presentation, I would show and track all the sales that I did by listing so people could see, well, Mike sells 96 or 97% of his listings. Taking a listing that's not modified just draws down my percentage, and I didn't want to do that. This is good too. Are you interviewing other realtors? Yes, I am. Great. Now I know that there's competition, and I want to see if I could get in first because 66% of people will sign with the first realtor. Just my approach. As I said, I know people that are very successful in this brokerage and in the industry. They prefer to be the last person in. I wanted to be the first. And oftentimes in my career, I would say, like, for instance, say it's Matt. Hey, Matt, it's great that we're going to work together. Got you to okay autograph our paperwork here. Can't wait to get started. I know you mentioned that you had another appointment booked with Mary. If you want to give me Mary's phone number, I'd be happy to give her a call. Take that burden away from you and let her know that you've listed with me. That way you don't have to be, the bad person here. So I made those calls lots of times. And not that I would took pleasure out of it, but hey, listen, be the first one in 2/3 of the time, you're going to get the listing, okay? Next slide. This is just a sample of questions. There's 2 slides here, two of them. Print it out. You've got it in your workbook. I think you're on page, what page are we on here, Maddie? 40. We're on page 40 and 41. If you don't already have embedded into your mind the questions you want to follow, the roadmap, create this on your own, create a template so that you're ready for it. So if somebody's calling you and you're going to be asking these questions, use this as a guide, basically, and fill it out as per your need. So there's 2 of them there. Next one. Oh, there's the bona fide appointment word right there. How does that one? So what do we got? If we are to meet, would all the decision makers be present? That's part of your booking the appointment. Remember I taught you the booking the appointment script, and some of you are using it. I've got feedback from you guys and are booking appointments. The if I could, would you dialogue, then the alternative choice for, well, would tonight at 6 or tomorrow at 7 work? You guys are using it. I'm hearing great feedback. But part of that, when you're booking that, is to ask also, would all the decision makers be present? So that would be people that are, of course, on title, because you cannot get a signed bona fide listing without having those people on title, unless, of course, there's a power of attorney, or if there is a probate type of document that we're talking about, where there's an estate, so probate document, we actually call that now, the new term for that is certificate of appointment. So if anybody's ever dealing with an estate and you hear the word probate or you hear the word certificate of appointment, they're the same. The lawyers, though, and the sector now use the word, though, certificate of appointment. So will they all be there? Sometimes there are people that are not even on title. It could be parents. Why? Because maybe mom and dad or grandparents, let's say, maybe they were helping and funded the purchase that they're now selling as a listing. So you just want to make sure that the decision makers are there. Now, if mom and dad or others are decision makers, we have the technology Zoom, we can patch them in. If they're living somewhere else, great. But let's try and get the decision makers at the table for the discussion. And if you're just dealing with a husband and wife situation or spousal situation, I'd have both of them present, because there's nothing worse than the old telephone conversation tag, meaning if I'm sitting talking to Matt right now and explaining to him my strategy and going through everything, I'm now relying on Matthew to convey and communicate what I'm saying to his significant other, right? Not a good thing. And I don't want to rely upon Matt to do that. So I want Matt at the table, one significant other at the table, so that there's no, you know, I guess miscommunication would be a good word.
Would you turn down an appointment just because both people will not be there?
I have. I have turned down appointments. Situation specific. Why are we turning down? Why is the other person not there? Are they on shift work? So have I not given the right, timeline? Would 6 or 7 work, kind of thing? Do I need to say, hey, would 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. work? So, ideally, yes, I want them at the table. And in very rare situations, I would do it without them there. But the vast majority of times, I want the decision makers there for sure. Right? Dig a little deeper, find out why the other person's not available, right? Yep, that's fine. Next slide. One meeting versus multiple appointments. I told you I like to do the one appointment, get in there. 66% of people are going to sign. Again, this is your personal preference. Do you feel that you should come back with more information and do a 2-step appointment? Now, if you're doing a 2-stepper, hopefully it's with people that have been referred to you. So the likelihood is they're not talking to somebody else. Or, the other time I would say that I did do 2 steps was in very, very unique property. So I think I shared with you guys, I sold farms, I sold vacant property, I sold cottages, hobby farms as well. When people had horses or something like that. Those types of properties, actually, until you get there, sometimes you just don't know the extent of what you're looking at, right? So sometimes in those, I would have everything prepared. I'd go in thinking I have it on my strategy, and then there'd be something that just pops out. They never mentioned to me over the phone this feature, or in a past listing that I was looking at, something wasn't there. Like maybe there's full stables and there's a beautiful, pond feature that's stocked with trout or something. I go there and I don't have that information. I may want to say, listen, folks, I need to take this back because this really does change. It's a game changer for my strategy. And so I'd like to come back, in a couple of days after I've done some more calculations. Would it be okay if we came back and saw each other, 2 days from now at 6 o'clock? Great, perfect. But typically I only want to do one, especially when you're dealing with in the city stuff, right? When you're dealing with a typical subdivision type of home, there's really not a lot that you're going to get surprised by. So multiple appointments, you see that right now in the buyer's market because we are in a bit of a buyer's market, as you see. So people are sadly having to go back and forth more times, but try and get it to one appointment. Next slide. Prepare a pre-listing package. And so I brought in, I've asked our design just to give me an example of one of theirs. So this is the, I don't know if they can see that here, Matt. Yeah. So this is available for free for you at your design center, at your brokerage. So whether you're here in our West office or you're at the Don Mills or downtown, which, hey, I hear for you downtown agents, next week, is it next week?
Yeah.
That they're moving in. You guys are moving into the new space next week. Like that is, and I've seen pictures. A stunning property. You guys are going to be amazed at it. Exposed brick and beam, like totally funky. Anyways, this is free. All you need to do is provide design with a name and an address, and they'll print this thing out. This thing here is phenomenal. What an amazing piece.
They have seller, buyer, and pre-con packages.
So Matt's absolutely correct. There's a buyer's package, a pre-con package, and the seller's package. So what I would say is definitely leverage what we got. But I would say also create your own. And so this was actually one that I used in my last year. I've added a couple pieces to it since then, but this was my kind of brag book. And so it contained all the forms I needed. some brochures about, top 10 deadliest mistakes you make in real estate, working with the realtor forums. Now we have FinTrack. We didn't have FinTrack when I sold real estate. And then I had stuff that was like about me, resume, CV type of stuff, charts and whatnot. And this was something that I would leave with them as well. And then in that would be the actual CMA for their property. So use what we provide for free, but I really highly encourage you guys to create your own kind of brag book, your own piece, okay? Is there a question?
No, that was, you called it the Home Seller's Handbook or the Informed Home Seller's Guide? Which one? Your binder.
Oh.
Binder.
Yeah, I don't really have a term for it. I guess I would call it my brag book.
It's called the Home Seller's Handbook that I emailed to them, just so they know.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Seller's Handbook.
Okay. Oh, you gave a copy of that?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So you guys saw right, handbook for sellers. I'm sorry.
There you go. Yeah.
My bad.
Yep.
My bad. And mind you, I used to print mine out in color back, 15, 16 years ago. It was so expensive to print stuff in color. Now it's like so cheap. But you can create whatever you want. There's so much information at your fingertips online for you to create something that's unique and customizable. So 1-2 punch. If I was selling real estate again, folks, 100%, I'd be using what the company provides and adding to it with what I'm going to create. I mean, it's an amazing 1-2 punch. Here's my famous quote for you guys. He who is prepared has his battle half fought. Miguel de Cervantes from the book Don Quixote. Don Quixote is the second highest selling book of all times next to the Bible. Amazing. Yeah. Comparative market analysis. Go deep, folks. One of the things that realtors forget to include in their CMAs is expired listings. Whenever I review CMAs for realtors when they come in, yes, we get the active sales that are on the market and sold, but you're always missing the expired. The expired is so important, folks, because these are what I would call failures. Those are failures in execution, expired listings. Nobody puts a property on the market, be it a realtor and the seller, that go into that listing wanting to expire. Going through the aggravation, inconvenience, stress of showings, cleaning the house, all these types of things to end up here, expired listings. And typically a listing will expire because of its pricing strategy. That's the single most biggest reason for that. So you want to show that to the listing clients. These are the ceiling. These are the expired failures in the marketplace. Do you want to be one of those? Of course not. You don't want to be one of those. You want to be one of the success stories, one of the souls. So how do we strategize a price strategy to get you sold? And if you've ever come into my office and we've talked one-on-one, you'll have heard this strategy approach from me. And for those of you that haven't heard it, write what I'm going to say down for you. Your list price, on a listing is really one thing. Anybody want to take a guess at that? Matt, you know what the answer is? You've been in my class a few times. You should know this answer.
I forgot.
He's forgotten. It's a marketing strategy. 100%. List price is a marketing strategy. Far too often when I'm sitting down and working with you as realtors, you're so focused on getting the right number, like what it's going to sell for. And I've never been able to be right on and accurate with that. Yes, in a range bound, we can get that. But I was more focused in on getting a listing price that is a marketing strategy to drive traffic. My biggest job as a realtor when I take a listing is to have bodies walk through the front door to look at the property. Would you agree? If I don't have bodies coming through, the likelihood of me getting a sale is remote. It's not happening. So my job is to get traffic. Well, how can I get traffic? Today is Friday. Today, you're probably going to get a lot of flyers for, my favorite flyer, full disclosures, Canadian Tire. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I love the Canadian Tire flyers. And they're going to be front page ads, I bet, when I get home tonight for something that I need. Anybody want to know what I need right now? I know. My mind sometimes is funny. I need a snowblower. I got this much snow. I live on the border of Caledon and North Brampton. I still use shovels. After the last couple of days, I need a snowblower. When that flyer comes in and I get home tonight, I'm going to look to see what snowblower is on for sale. And I'm going to probably walk into Canadian Tire or Home Depot or Lowe's. Like, it's bundle all those three together. I'm a geek. I love those flyers. Their marketing strategy is not really to sell me the snowblower, though. Their marketing strategy is to hook me some way. So maybe the snowblower is 50% off. I don't know. But that 50% off or that 30% off is like neon lights to me going, Mike, you got to go in. So yes, I have a need. Am I actually going to spend $1,000 on a snowblower that I'll only probably use 4 or 5 times a year? I don't know, but because I shoveled my driveway twice this week, I'm probably like, I might go in. The front page of their flyer will have that snowblower on. I'm almost guaranteeing you that because of this week. And it's going to drive traffic. I'm going to go in. Whether I buy or buy anything from them, that snowblower is immaterial to them. It got me in the front door. Because maybe I'm walking out having bought a new tool. Oh, yeah, I need a new hammer, or I need a new saw. Or, oh, there's a great whatever. And I walk out with something else. Marketing is about driving attention and traffic. And for your list price, think of it like that. Your list price. And this is the conversation you want to have with your seller. It's not about arguing about what it's going to sell for. It's about coming up, be on the same page with them on the strategy. Listen, if we want to get as many people in, we should, if your value is $1 million in this market, let's go down, 20%. Let's list this thing at 800,000 or 850, right? This strategy is still working. Hearing it every day from our realtors that are using this type of marketing strategy for price, driving traffic. And believe it or not, in the last couple of weeks, we are starting to see a warming up of our marketplace. I think in another couple of weeks, you're going to have a healthy spring market return to, it's not going to be crazy like last year, but it's going to be a healthy, hopefully more balanced system. But for you guys, list price is a strategy. Market share was your question.
Is underlisting a property still an effective strategy if it brings in the wrong type of traffic?
Define wrong type of traffic.
I'm assuming they mean by people who are actually thinking you're going to accept 800,000 for $1 million property. It's considered wrong traffic, like something that will not bring a successful offer.
Sure. I think bringing bodies in the front door, whether or not they're the end user buyer, is always a good thing. I'd rather have that because then I'm going to get feedback from those folks and those realtors if they care to give me feedback back, right? So I don't know if anybody's doing that right now with their listings. Always call the people that have shown your property to see if they can give you some feedback. And in those cases, if they're the wrong buyers that thought, at 850 they were going to get it for 850 or 830, well, that's good to make a note of that. So that's information we can share back with the seller. Because if we get 50 showings and all the people are saying the same things, that probably tells me that our mindset value of $1 million was incorrect, right? Because here's the reality. All we're looking for in the listing is 2 or 3 or 4 people that really want that house and that will compete with each other. And so, the wrong buyer, if the wrong buyer in a multiple offer situation where you have a set offer date wants to buy it for the 850, let's say you have 3 of those buyers, but you have the one buyer that's willing to go where you think it's going to go. That frenzy, that competition is going to generate the outcome you want. Many, many times when I sold properties in multiple offer situations, the delta between the winner and those that have not been successful is huge. You know, very, very few times I would say where, you know, if there was 5 or 6 offers, they were all clustered within a couple thousand or $5,000 one. There's always that massive gap because you've got that one person. You're just looking for that one person, but you're throwing that fishing net out and bringing in as many bodies into the front door. Hope that answered the question. Listing presentation, this is just common sense stuff, nothing to fill in here. I would say though, sometimes it's unfortunate that we show up late. My advice to you on a listing presentation is to never be late for those. Put those in as if it's your annual physical at your doctor. That's how important being on time at a listing is. And if you are running late, please give them a call. Do not let them be sitting at home. You know, you're 5, 10, 15 minutes late. To you, it seems like nothing, 5, 10 minutes. To them, it's an eternity. And it's a reflection of how you do your business, right? And never, ever tell them, sorry, I'm late. I was with another client. That is a kiss of death to any potential client of yours, because in their mind's eye, they're your only client. Never, ever say to them, sorry, you know, I was with my other client, Matt, he just kept on talking and, you know, he made me late. No, 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 never do that.
Should you overdress or underdress when going to these appointments to meet with clients?
Again,
would it give the wrong impression to overdress?
Yeah, so I was always suit, and depending upon the client, sometimes I'd throw a tie on as well. So I guess it's also know who your audience is. And so if you are, you know, if you're friends with them and you guys are social, you may want to dress down. I wouldn't show up with a ball cap and flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt though to a listing presentation, me personally, even with friends, right? It's really your personal call. I did many offer presentations where realtors came in dressed like that. I remember the one buyer's agent, it was in a multiple, so we were listed, and the one buyer's agent came in with flip-flops and, you know, his ball cap turned around, and he presented his offer. And when he left, in between waiting for the next to come in, my seller said, just because the way that guy was dressed, I really don't feel like I'm confident who his buyers are. So to me, dress for success. And it's like, probably right now trading, I would still be like this. I would be in a casual business suit type of thing. I want to set a kind of standard who I am. And, you know, some people call these power suits, whatever. I mean, but to me, this is my uniform, right? And so think of it how you want to project your business and what your uniform wants, what you want your uniform to look like. Flip-flops though, folks, nah, don't do that. Here we go. We'll go next one here. All right, this is how I always look at my listing presentations and my buyer presentations. You're on the stage. Are you ready to deliver an Academy Award performance, right? I think there's a couple of great pictures coming up for Academy Awards. The Whale, Brendan Fraser, is supposed to be highly touted. The Ghost of Innersheen, which is the Irish one with Colin Farrell, amazing movie, right? These guys don't just walk on set, get a script and start talking about it and running the lines. These guys have practiced. In fact, there's an old acronym from one of my favorite trainers. So my 2 favorite trainers in my life, I've said to you, the first one was Floyd Wickman. He was my first trainer. My second was a guy named Tom Hopkins. Tom Hopkins was actually the one that shared with us from the first class, the words, those toxic words that we've changed, right? From commission to fee, you know, problem, challenge, those types of things. Tom Hopkins taught me this thing called PDR. P stands for practice. D, drill. And R, rehearse. That course cost me $600 to do back in 1994. You just got it for free, folks. Practice, drill, rehearse. every actor, every athlete, every politician, every musician, athlete, practice, drills, and rehearse. Some of you may know my past when I sold real estate. I worked in the minor sport community, hockey, baseball, inline hockey. Well, I had athletes that made it to the NHL. In fact, one of my clients became the #1 overall draft pick in the NHL, Rick Nash. You guys may have heard that name. He's now just since retired about 2 years ago. Rick won 2 gold medals for Team Canada. When he was 19 years old, he won the goal scoring title in the NHL, one of only 3 players in the history of the NHL to do that. Wayne Gretzky was one, and Jimmy Carson was the other. Rick practiced this word 3 to 4 times for every hour that he would play. So if he's playing 1 hour, he practiced 3 or 4 times. That's how intense these athletes are. That's how intense actors and actresses are. You are practicing at a 3 to 4 time ratio for your performance. Ask yourself the question right now. Are you doing that? Are you practicing that type of at that type of level? If you're not, let's not get ashamed, like get upset with each other. Let's create an opportunity and start practicing. You have a wealth of friends and relationships within our brokerage that you can leverage and practice with each other. Because it's better to make your mistakes with your colleagues here and peers in the office than to make it out on the street. One word could sabotage and derail the entire listing presentation and cost you $20,000, $30,000. Why take the chance? So if you know you're going to be 1 hour at a listing presentation, we need to be practicing 3 to 4 hours for that specific presentation. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, if you know if you can't perform at a level, you're not ready for it. So make sure that you can execute on those missions. Next one, start building rapport immediately. We talked about that. Situational contingent, yep, based upon the seller and their personality. So I shared with you guys in the first session, I did study psychology at university. There's a bunch of different techniques and tools that you can use to kind of place a personality. There's one that's a very simple one that everybody can use. And actually in our industry, you see it being used by some of the trainers, and it's called the DISC formula, D-I-S-C. Just Google that. You'll see it's basically 4 personality types that they've identified. Folks, there's way more than 4. This is a very simplistic model, but it's a helpful model. So start simple. For instance, the D is a direct type of person. That's somebody that doesn't want chit chat. They're not about this. They do not want to develop rapport. There are numbers people. Show me the numbers. So if you're walking in and you got somebody that's a D that you sense right away, then stop building the rapport. That's like going and getting a root canal for that person. Like they're not about the warm and fuzzy with you. Show them the money. Remember that saying from Jerry McGregor? Show me the money. Tell me what this is all about. This one here, they love rapport. The I's and the S's. They love that. But easy one to just look at so that when you go in, you can be a chameleon. I think I shared that term with you guys in the first week. Or you, in psychology, we also call it mirror. Mirror the person. People like, there's a comfort level built in when they feel like you're like them. And you may be completely unlike them. You may be the D. And you may hate rapport building. But if you're going to go in with somebody that's a warm and fuzzy hugger, probably going to have to step out of your comfort zone and be a warm and huggy fellow.
What does the I, S, and C stand for, DISC?
I should have looked it up. I is the, well, Google it for me for a second. I is like I think the intuitive, S is social, and C is compliant, I think is how I recall it. But they do it in 4 quadrants. And nobody, by the way, is exactly the same. People have traits. So you'd see a thing like this, maybe, right? Where people, if they're a D, they're heavy Ds. And it's a survey question, like you go through a self-analysis, kind of like we did in our first class where we did a little self-analysis of you, and it'll determine what quadrant you are in. But you usually, in this one here, there's a dominant trait, which would be, if you're D, that would be your dominant.
Dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness.
Right. Yeah. Or like she said, dominant. I say direct, like it's a direct person. It's the numbers person. So when in the scale, you'd be tested on a scale, and maybe like you're 60% D, and you're 15% I, 35, 10, and 5 S and C. And so you map yourself out, and that's your tendency. It's a very simplistic model. I'm actually not certified in assessing people using the DISC. I'm a certified for the last 20 years EI assessor, emotional intelligence assessor. When I did my master's degree, one of my professors, he was 80 at the time, had 7 PhDs, and was working on 2 more when he was in his 80s. And he was Canada's preeminent emotional intelligence professor. And so I was very fortunate to meet him. Emotional intelligence, or actually, you may have heard of it as EQ. Everybody ever heard of EQ before? No? This is stuff to really look into. This is the magic, I think, because this incorporates all the personality scales you see in personality and all kinds of other scales and variables. The EQ is the internal version for emotions of a thing you've definitely heard of, IQ. Who's heard of IQ? Right? What's your IQ? I'm 120, or I'm 150, I'm in Mensa. That's the IQ, right? That's logical, rational thinking. And so a lot of schools, they test people's IQ, but there's so many inherent flaws in testing for IQ. EQ is testing for the inside. So your, for instance, your interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills is how am I able to interact with Matthew or somebody else? Inter, right? That's huge. Interpersonal. Interpersonal. When I did my thesis on real estate performance predictors, interpersonal skills was huge. The more interpersonal you're able to be, the higher likelihood you're going to have success. Well, the flip side of inter is intra. Personal, okay? Intrapersonal. What does that mean? Well, the number one on that would be a thing called self-awareness. How self-aware are you of your strengths and your weaknesses? How self-aware, it's called SWOT analysis. You may have heard this in business, SWOT analysis. I know I'm going way off topic, but whatever. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Self-awareness, which is the number one determinant of intra self-awareness. How good are you internally at SWOT analysis yourself? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What opportunities are in my landscape, and what threats are out there in that landscape for the strengths and weaknesses? That's what I'm literally, I was one of the first to be certified in Canada as an EQ assessor. It's about 150 odd questionnaire that's done. Love that stuff. EQ. It came out in the 1990s. That decided. Daniel Goleman. If you ever want to read up on it, Daniel Goleman from Harvard. Just Google that. And unfortunately, for those that will do that, I'm going to send you on a massive rabbit hole this week, and you guys are going to like fall in love with it because it is really cool stuff if you're interested in stuff like that. Okay, where are we now, Matt? Next slide, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, she doesn't want to go to the next slide.
Again.
All right, so listing presentation script. I'm not going to go through this with you, but it's in your book. What page are we on for that, Matt? 44. 44 and 45. So these are just examples of some dialogues and scripting that you can use at a listing presentation. Remember, P, D, R. Take what you like, make it your own, practice it, drill it, rehearse it. There's also scripts in the back of your workbook as well for listing presentations working with buyers. Again, I'm not telling you to use exactly what you see here. There might not be anything you like here. Create your own, you know, listen to what other people are saying and take that, but practice, drill, and rehearse it because you want to internalize this stuff. You don't want to memorize. There's a big difference. Internal versus memory. Memory is what amateurs do. They memorize things. Professionals internalize it, make it their own. It's completely natural. No matter what the setting is, it's natural to you. You're not forcing it out. How many people get phone calls? Hopefully not too many anymore because they do not call this. But remember back years ago, you know, getting a phone call for the duct cleaning service or for lawn maintenance service or for painting. And with the person that you're talking to that's called you, you can tell they're reading something. They're trying to read or memorize content. They haven't internalized it. And then compare and contrast that with somebody that's calling you on a call, that you're actually engaged with the call because they've internalized the words. They made it their own. Very important. I think we had 2 pages for that. Yeah.
3 actually.
Was it 3? Wow. Okay, this is something that I used to use on all of my listings. Scheduled timelines. Now, I've only given you from day 1 to day 7, right? So I'm not giving you like 4 pages of what I'm going to do. But think of this as my calendar, your calendar, for what you do. Will be doing. Most people get up every day, do their routine thing. Remember we talked about routine thoughts and non-routine thoughts in the first thing. They wake up every day, they know they gotta clean themselves, brush their teeth, eat, have that coffee pot of whatever, not a cup, a pot, get in their vehicle or use transit and get to a job. And then they get to a job, and typically, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you show up here and you have functions to do, right? Like here's what Matt's job is. Same for me. I come in here to work and I have tasks that are required of me to do. Well, in our business, we really don't have that. We go into listing presentations and working with buyers, and we don't actually communicate the tasks that we actually do. I remember that the one handout Matt gave to you, the couple hundred things that you do in business, right? Use some of those pieces of information to formulate, here's what I do for you, and here's what my job is for you. People like to see that.
It's called the critical role handout.
The critical role handout. So this is just a little sample, a 7-day, but if you're taking a 90-day listing, have a 90-day schedule timeline for those people so that they can see behind the scenes what you're actually doing. Because the last thing you want them to think about is you've gone in, signed the listing, and the next time they see you is when they get an offer. You want them to understand that behind listing, there's so much work that you're doing because we have this competition with other brokerages that may be just fee-based models, meaning they're not doing anything like this, nothing. They're putting it on MLS and letting the MLS sell the property. And in the last 8 or 9 months, that's not been a very good strategy, just letting MLS sell it, okay? Of course, fee-based models are always going to be around. A very large one last week failed. You may have heard it in the news, Fair Square. It used to be called Purple Bricks, who used to be called ComFree. So they've gone through 3 name changes in the last 15 years. They closed the doors last week, and they're a strictly fee-based model. Remember I talked about in the first class, 14% of people choose fee over service and value. Well, I would say with failures like that, that number is going to go even lower. People want value. This shows your value. This shows what you're doing. So it requires your time and effort to plan that and make it custom for those people. If you're earning a fee of $20,000, $30,000, you should be customizing a service to them. Hopefully that makes sense.
Before you go,
Yeah.
Fariba has a question.
Sorry.
Fariba has a question.
Sure.
He's asking, what do you think of us discussing the 5 questions which every seller have? Like discussing that with the client.
The 5 questions, which one is that? Sorry.
I don't know. One of them is, she said, is why
your
much is
company?
how much did why our company? Those questions.
Those questions from page 43?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, here's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. I'm throwing a lot of content at you, right? What I'd like you to do is sift through the content and make what you really like yours, right? So if you think using those 5 questions and structuring your strategy and presentation around those, 100%, you do that. You practice, drill, rehearse, make that part of an internal dialogue for yourself that every time you go out there that you're going to touch on those. I think there's actually 6, right? Yeah, there's 6 of them. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. This is your business, right? I'm just sharing with you how I ran mine. And sometimes, you know, you go in and you have your strategy, and sometimes you take a little detour. Like today, like I'm teaching this class probably for the 150th, 200th time. I don't even know how many times I've taught this class. It's never the same, ever, right? Matt sat here 4 or 5 times, 6 times watching me present. Has it ever been the same? Never the same, right? Because something will pop in my mind. I've got the overall structure of what I want to convey to you, but something pops in my mind, triggers a memory, I talk about it. And then
a unique question is asked.
Or a unique question has popped up, right? Yeah, never the same. If you ever want to go back and compare and contrast this class or any others to the past, you'll get a completely different, you know, course, essentially, right? All right, next slide, Matt. Sorry, can I go through? Yeah, good. Okay, what are their goals? Net dollars and time. I always created the net sheet for my clients. Everybody know what a net sheet would look like, or what would be in a net sheet? Nobody. Okay. So we're going to start with the sale price. That's the top. $1 million. It's called RF, realtor fees. Let's say it's 5%. Lawyer. What? 1,500. Moving. I always factored in 1% for moving expenses. Okay. What else do we have? Let's say if we're buying.
Staging.
Well, staging would be, you know, embedded in your fee, unless you're having the seller. If you have a model or you got creating your own listing strategy where they're paying for it, yeah, absolutely, that would be part of the net sheet. And we do have realtors, by the way, that do that do not include staging in their fee model. They have the seller pay for staging. So your choice. Again, you're customizing your own unique business. On a buyer's side, you have this thing called land transfer tax, right? So you want to have a net sheet. I've sold for $1 million, and at the end of the day, I'm putting $920,000 in my pocket as a seller. I'm just throwing a number out there. This is not scientific numbers here, right? But a net sheet. So the seller has in their mind, based upon this sale price, this is what I should be netting out. And what I used to do is gave variables, like usually 3 net sheet examples. With buyers, I give them 3 or 4 cost analysis sheets based upon purchase price, interest rate, amortization, and I do 3 scenarios, 4 scenarios for them to do that. This is the same thing, but for a seller and net sheet. The curiosity is, anybody doing a net sheet right now in their presentations? Pardon me?
Give them a second.
Yeah.
And while we wait for that, Lorna says, what is the possibility the boards should have a law to stop agents and discount brokerage discounting commission price, because Brampton sellers only want to pay 1% because they see the list for 1% advertisement on all the bus stops.
Okay, so that is not a board related issue. For that matter, it's not a Real Estate Council of Ontario RICO issue.
that is a bigger issue. That is a competition bureau situation.
And believe you me, folks, the last people you want to pick a fight with is these guys. Individually as a realtor, as a brokerage, as a board, as a provincial association, as a national association. You do not want to be picking fights with the competition bureau. So, Lorna, even by saying what you said there, and now we're in a safe environment here, folks. Nobody's gonna, go out and say, hey, you made a comment about Brampton and this type of thing. We can't be doing that. Choice is what consumers have to have. Now, whether or not the fee model, the discount one that failed 3 times, that's a fact. You can share that fact with people, but you can't disparage the model, and you certainly can't disparage, unfortunately, how a specific area, geographic location is the way that it is, and that individual sellers demand whatever that fee is. Be very, very careful about not getting into the weeds with that conversation, because these people here can put you out of business real quick. So be very mindful. Not trying to scare anybody here or chastise anybody here, but just be very mindful. Business models exist. Just think about it in our everyday lives. You can walk into Walmart and buy clothes, or you can go into Saks Fifth Avenue and buy clothes. They're clothes, but they're different values. You can fly first class on an airplane, or you can fly standby. Again, different. You're doing the same thing, different experience. You can buy a Ferrari, or you can go buy a moped. Both the same experience, it's taking you from A to B, right? So just be very careful, folks. Okay, I don't want to scare you, but just be tread very lightly whenever you're going to compare different brokerage models, different people's fee-based models. Okay, hope I answered your question there. Okay, what's that? We're good. Next one. Ask the seller for a guided tour. So now we're going to the house. We booked our appointment. It's at 7 o'clock tonight, and we show up to the house. And I think on your work handbook, you'll see, what is it? I think the last page. Can you bring that up, Swan? Yeah. It's the 10 favorite features of your home that I used to have, right? And that's in the little handout Matt gave you in the first week.
Page 14.
Page 14 of the handbook for home sellers, right? So I always just use that. And when I go in, I'd want a guided tour from the sellers as if I was right now a cash buyer. Use that word, I'm a cash buyer. And when you show up, I used to always come, this is my actual binder from 1998 when I joined Royal LePage. It's a purple one. They don't give you these ones anymore. It's a new black one, right, Matt?
Yes.
Black, yeah. And I think it's embossed your name or badge. I don't know, badges and stuff like that. But that's my one from 25 years ago. Next week, actually, is my 25th anniversary from being with Royal LePage. So it's a big milestone for me. And so I used to bring this with me, and there's the actual little paper that I had. And I brought that in and I said, please give me a guided tour of your home as if I'm a cash buyer. Right now, I'm ready to buy your house, but you got to sell it to me. And so we'd go on the tour. Provide sincere compliments as you're walking along. Ask them, by the way, I've got my notebook. Would you mind if it's okay if I took notes? I do not want to forget anything that you may mention, because that may be a big selling feature, a marketing point for me when I build a marketing strategy for your house. Is that okay for me to take notes? Yeah, great. So you go around, sincere compliments. Listen, if they got carpet from the 1970s that's worn through, don't make a comment about how great their carpets are. That's not sincere, right? Sincere compliments. Constructive criticism today is provided by the sector. So no sense in you getting to be very confrontational with them with something that is maybe deficient in their home. Let's let the home stager, if you're engaging one, do that bit of nasty business for you. If you're not using stagers, then, you know, find the right words, be critical, and share with them why it would be important for them to change this, change that. Yeah.
Just so they can see it.
Okay.
That's the 10 favorites.
That's 10 favorites. Yeah. Yeah. Some people might not have 10 things. They might only have a couple. That's fine. Some people might have 20. That's fine too. If they have 20, my God, that's the, what do we call that? Pride of ownership. If somebody's putting in 20 things, they love their house. And it may be a great thing, but it also may be a hindrance to you, because if they love it that much, it might be really hard for them to let go. It's also going to be chock block full of memories, most likely, for them. They may have raised a family, who knows. So you're doing all this good stuff. And then this is actually, I should make that in red. And so I was taught this line in like my second or third month of selling real estate back in 1992. And the statement is, you know what, I can sell this house for you, right? So you're sitting there and going, well, that's whatever. You know what, I can sell your house. Well, you got to do some acting. So the guy that taught me this was, Mike, you got to go in, you got your notebook, you've done your tour, they've sold it to you, they've given you the things they love about the house. You provided some, you know, good, constructive feedback and compliments. And then when you come back, it's acting. And you go, hey, you know what, Matt, Jane, you know what, I can sell this house. And you look up, you're pointing to your book, you're pointing to them, you know what, I can get this house sold for it. So it's an acting job. Believe it or not, they're sitting there, and every time I ever did that, except for the first time, by the way, and the first time I completely screwed up, because the first time I didn't do the thing called, and I hadn't taken the course yet, I didn't do PDR. Because when I went, I said, hey, Matt, you know what, I can't sell your house. That was my first experience with it. I screwed it up, okay? Learn from my mistakes. I've screwed up a lot of things in my career. Hopefully I'll save you from those mistakes. It's very simple. Hey, Matt, you know what? I can sell this house. You're looking up in the sky. And there's a psychological thing that I'm doing there with Matt, which is like, I'm looking up to God, and God's going to help me. I'm going to sell this house for you and Gene. Definitive. I'm confident that I'm going to do that. Because in their mind, they're thinking, does Mike have what it takes to sell our house? Well, at the end of the walkthrough, Mike definitively convinced us he was going to do it. Hope that makes sense. Might seem corny, quirky, whatever. I'm telling you, I did it at every listing presentation, and it put them at a different place, calmed them down. It was a reassurance dialogue, very simple. Just make sure you say, I can sell this house, not that I cannot sell this house, okay? Don't be Mike in that case, right? This thing is very, very good too. This is a great kind of resource, very simple. How many agents, realtors are using one of these simple techniques and things? Not a lot, folks. Bring it with you. Okay, what do we got next? Your fee. So as you see at the top, I do a course in this. I think that's next week, right? I do the course on the fee objection handling stuff next week. Yeah. And then we finish off, I think, with negotiation strategies in the last one. Okay. So this is one of the reasons, if we go back to class one, why'd you get in the job, was to make money, right? That was the first thing everybody said to me, which is great. So you better have in your pocketbook, your back pocket, 3 or 4 objection dialogues ready to go at any given time. If you want to jump ahead, you can next week's class. There's dialogues there for you. There's situations there that I've created for you. The objection, different objection. Hey, listen, Mike, somebody else would offer me less. Would you agree to discount your fee? I've given you scenarios. You want to read ahead, go ahead and do that, because we'll cover that next week. What did I do? I created what's called a fee service plan model. And if you turn the page to, I think it's going to be, where's it going to be, Matt? Page 50. Oh yeah, we can do, there's an error in the workbook on this one, right?
Have your pen ready, ask the seller to come to you to take measurements. We'll do the page 50 here in a second. When you're taking measurements of the property, yes, I know today you have the ability to use laser measurement tools. I used to always use a tape measure. And because I worked in the minor sport community, oftentimes there'd be, the kids that were baseball kids or hockey kids, and they'd come along, they'd help with the measurements for me, but get them involved and engaged in doing stuff like that. Is my fee service here? No, not yet.
Keep going. It's one more and you'll see it.
Okay, let's just go through this very quickly. Said that earlier. You got to agree upon the listing price. What is that? That's your marketing strategy to drive traffic into the front door. Yes, somebody made a comment, you're going to attract the wrong people, but if that wrong person puts an offer in with the person that's the right person, he's going to encourage the right person probably to put a higher offer in for us, right? So that's the flyer you're getting. That's the lowest price marketing strategy. Risk to overpricing. That's going to lead to expired listings. That's the failures that we talked about. Add those to your CMAs. Explain how new listings generate the most activity. There's a chart on the handbook for sellers. If you look at page, looks like it's going to be page 7 or 8. It's the weeks on market graph. And it looks like that, right? Weeks on market. The most interest that you're going to generate on your listing is in the first 3 weeks.
Page 10.
Page 10 on that. So use charts like that, because think about it. It's the new shiny thing that just hit the market. Once it's past its 3rd week on the market, it becomes stale. And oftentimes when so here's your graph, like here's the interest and it goes down. And this is at 3 week, 1 day. Everything's happening here. And then down here, you're doing price change, price change, price change. And you're answering questions from the buyer or the realtor, what's wrong? Has anybody ever been out with a buyer that you're showing a property that's been on the market for 30 days, 40 days, 50 days, and you've been asked this question, what's wrong with this property? Anybody ever heard that? I think you probably all have heard that if you've been out with buyers for a listing that's been on the market for a while. And what is wrong with the property? There's only one thing that's wrong with it, possibly. Price. Unfortunately, that home seller is going to be competing now with a whole bunch of listings that are sitting there for 40, 50, 60 days. And you're going to have buyers that are going to go in there, and then that's where you see a lot of lowballing. And that's where you as the realtor are going to be constantly fighting with your seller. And then when that listing expires, somebody else is going to come along. All that hard work and effort you put in, somebody else is going to capitalize on that because they're going to list it at the right price, the right marketing strategy price. Don't want to overprice, and explain how buyers comparison shop. 100%. There's inventory out there right now, so more of a bit of a buyer's market. There's not a lot of it, but they have the chance. They have time. I don't think that's going to be the case in about a month and a half time. I think you're going to see more of a balanced situation happening. Okay. The last one. Oh, we got one. Customize your own.
It's after this.
Okay, it's after. Customize your design marketing plan. Include your proactive strategies, your open houses, just listed flyers, things like that. And then include your timelines and benchmarks, which is that sheet that we gave you on page, where is it there? Where's my page 47? That's your scheduled timeline stuff, so your benchmarks, okay? All right, well, this will be the last slide, I think.
I think it's so.
There it is. Oh. So this formed the cornerstone of my fee-based model for listings. So rather than going in and reinventing the wheel every listing presentation, or having to, basically scrap with the sellers every time I go in, I created 3 plans, and I actually called them these: deluxe, premium, and economy. People have taken my system and created different ones. Some have been gold, like gas, gold, silver, bronze, right? You call it whatever you want. Essentially, you call it first class, business, call it economy. Add another one, standby. So the purpose of how I did this, and I'll tell you the purpose and the reason why I did this, because I think the why for me was important for my business, and it may be for what you're looking to develop for your business for listings. The why was, or so the purpose was, I didn't want to have to every time scrap it out, as I said earlier, for my fees. I wanted to present, here's my packages. Here's what I'm going to do. And this is very simplistic, by the way, folks. Like this is, I did a lot more than these things, okay? For brevity purposes, I only gave you a snapshot, right? Like 1/20th of what's actually included in these columns, okay? Again, use that resource that we gave you, where the things you do, you can start building out your plans the way you want. So the purpose was, I didn't want to have to every time have to sit and fight over fees, but you are going to have to sit and fight over fees regardless. This just made it easier for me to make that happen. But why? Well, I was selling in the minor sport community for hockey, baseball, and inline hockey. And because my business was with families that also interacted with one another all the time, so, you know, parents on the hockey team listed with me, another parent from the hockey team listed for me, another parent from the hockey team listed with me, and, you know, one had a fee of say 6%, another had it 5.5%, and another had it 5%. These numbers, by the way, are the actual numbers from my business back in 2007. I do agree with you. They would be different today. Okay, so those numbers would not be 6, 5.5, and 5. I would modify them to be more competitive in today's environment, but just acknowledge that this is what it was like, you know, for me back in the day. So we have 3 families on the same hockey team that had nothing but an amazing experience and outcome with me as their realtor. But we had 3 people paying 3 different fees. Now, what would happen that if the 3 families were sitting talking before a hockey practice where I was, you know, getting my skates on because I was the coach too, and they're out having their coffee at 6 a.m. and Matt's like talking to Joe, who's talking to Alex, and they're like, "Wow, Kennelly guy was great. It's amazing service, and you know, he sold our house in like 2 days for overlisting. And the guy did staging, the guy did this. Yeah, he was great, you know, and I had the same kind of experience." And Alex says the same thing, and then Alex says, "And Mike, oh, it only cost me 5%." Matt's going, "What? Mike charged you 5%? How is that possible? He charged me 6%." And then, what was the other name we gave? Joe? Yeah. Okay, so Joe says, "Well, he charged me 5.5." So now I have 3 very happy clients with me that are talking with each other and finding out that they all got charged a different fee. So this plan system is a choice-based system. The choice is between me and the sellers based upon the services that I'm going to render. As opposed to, I really don't care for Matt, so he's getting charged 6%. And I care a little bit more with Joe, so I gave him 5.5. And then John, I really like Joe, so I gave him 5%. In their mind, they're thinking those things. Think about it, right? Put yourself in their shoes. They're thinking, why did Mike charge me 6 and John 5? I don't like that Mike guy. Yeah, Mike delivered at my 6%, probably a better outcome because I threw everything in the kitchen sink at your listing and put every investment I could to make it happen. But now I've got a disgruntled client. Worse, I've got people now in my network talking about me. This is not where, when people talk about you, whether it's good or bad, it's a good thing. This is a bad thing when they start talking about you like that. This actually happened to me in my career once. And I did get the phone call from the 6% person saying, "What the heck happened there, Mike? Like, I don't understand. Why did you charge me 6%? Because I was able to bring it back to the actual contracts and fee-based models that we were working with and said, yeah, well, Joe went discount. He went standby. I didn't do anything. Do you know it took me 60 days this time to sell Joe's? And we had to do a price reduction with Joe's. I had warned him about that, but I couldn't do everything he wanted me to do for the fee that that we agreed to. But in your case, we listed it. Remember, we got an offer on the second day or third day, and it was $20,000 above list price. You got your closing date. You got to keep the chandelier. You got to keep it. Weren't you happy with that in 2 days? And we had maybe 10 people come to the house. Man, they had like 90 people come through. So there was nothing untoward that we did here. You actually picked the right plan. You picked the first class plan. Instantly, Matt was like, yes, now I remember. Completely turfed out, snuffed out any animosity, any back behind the scenes negative talk about me. That's why I created that plan, because I knew instinctively working in that network, that environment, that I would have a situation like that happen, and it did. It did happen. No problem. Let's go back. Let's remind ourselves what we did, what we agreed on. Perfect, Mike. I completely understand. Thanks for clarifying. Now,
what is the you don't have to be bang on with this. What is the approximate percentage of clients that you had that chose the deluxe plan over your history?
80+%.
All chose the deluxe plan.
I would say 80+%.
You're an excellent salesman.
Again, this column is a very simple, it's probably 5% of what I would put in that column. And the dialogue around getting them to sign a deluxe program versus a premium or economy, and I purposely use those words, right? Those were my words that I use, not gold, silver, bronze, or first class, second, but these are better. I think they're better words. But the dialogue around it is, listen, Matt, this is what we're doing, Matt. So Matt, I literally sit here before you right now, signing this listing, and I cannot tell you exactly what it is in these value add services that I'm offering the deluxe plan that are going to sell your house. All I can tell you is that the combination of all of these services and these value adds are going to sell your house. I don't know if it's going to be our classified advertising that's going to make it happen, but if I don't do that, we'll never know. We might not drive that buyer from that source. And so for you, if we were going to a casino, we're putting a bet on the largest investment of your life, that sale of your house. And we're making bets on what it is in these services and these value adds that we're going to use or that we're going to remove. So you can make that choice with me. What do you think has the biggest possible successful outcome for us? Would it be the deluxe package, the premium, or the economy? And do you really want to take that risk? By the way, I'll teach you a dialogue in the objection handling class. It's actually called, I'll teach you a thing called the casino close. A really cool close. And that's actually when you're at a negotiating table, buyer, seller side. You can use it on both sides, right? And it's called the casino close. Do you remember that? Remember I talked about that one? Yeah, I talked about that too. It's a very cool one. You have to wait. You have to attend that class to learn that casino close.
And before you go on, so a few slides before you had a net sheet. And if you keep on back. Net sheet.
I think I wrote net sheet stuff.
Yeah, you wrote net sheet.
Yeah.
So skip back ahead to your fee sheet. How would the net sheet differ from this? And why would you have both? Because the net sheet you had, like how much you're charging,
sure,
that kind of stuff. How would that differ from this?
Yeah, so they are two separate things. This is the fee plan, right? Let's not use the word commission anymore. We've stopped using that. This is the fee plan. And so depending upon which one of the three we're choosing, when you do the net,
sorry, no, there's a hit that once. There you go.
Okay. When you do the net sheet, whatever they chose, just one of those input items for the net sheet. So we got, remember, it was sale prices first, right? So it's $1 million. the sale price. And then you've got the fee, legal, moving, right? Okay, so expensive. So when it comes to this is the plan, the fee, with all the services we're doing, okay? This is all the things I'm investing, staging. I'm gonna have your house repainted. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do some gardening and landscaping outside, whatever, and virtual tours. What's the other big one that they call Matterport tours? We're gonna do drones. We're gonna do feature sheets. We're gonna do ads in the paper. Like this is what I'm doing as far as the services go. And that just represents in the net sheet, whatever that looks like. So are we taking 6% of that, which would be 60 grand? So we're reducing 60 grand from that gross price. This is the sale price. That's the gross number. So they're two separate things. Did they understand?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Friedel wants to know if you were selling today.
Yeah.
Would your deluxe plan be the same, or
No.
would you be modifying?
No,
it?
yeah, I said that, right? I said I completely, mea culpa, I would be definitely adjusting my levels. I'd probably be here 5%, right? Is my deluxe, yeah, maybe 5.5%. Because I'm gonna share with you next week. I call it Matt knows this too. You'll know this word. It's called my commission ectomy. So I'm actually going to show you what it looks like from a diagnostic perspective, what it looks like when you are reducing your fees, okay? So you don't want to give too much downward pressure on those fees. Yes, 5% seems to be a norm. There are no norms though. If those are words we cannot use out in the field, again, we're going to have that competition bureau people telling us, and RICO will get involved in that. There's actually cases published on the RICO website where there's no standard fees, there's no nothing like that. Everything's negotiable, okay? But yes, I would modify those. And you'll see here too, I don't think anyone was asked about these types of things. These are, if they're sold within a certain time period. And those were actually real days, right? Like 14 days, 15, 20 years ago was light speed to sell a property. Light speed. If you sold a property in the first couple of days, like holy cow, unheard of. It really took you 2 to 3 weeks. That's why that chart shows you that all the activity and then it wanes down. Most of the sales are done back in those days at the back end of those 3 weeks, believe it or not. I would take buyers around and show them 40, 50, 60 properties back in those days before they bought the property. That was the norm. That's the norm. That's why eventually I started referring buyers out to other realtors for a referral fee, because I learned the term list to, what's the word? Started the whole session off with this term. List to last. That's your inventory that people are coming to your store to see. I think that's my last slide, right?
Yes. So don't go next.
Listen, folks, as I said, I'm just sharing with you, letting you see inside how I organized and structured my business. You're probably sitting there going, yes, Mike is very system orientated. And you are absolutely correct. But what you might not know, I'm not system orientated as a personality person. I hate it. I hated to do this. And you may be sitting at home going, I don't want to do that. It's going to take too much time. I'm going to get frustrated. And I'm 100% on side with you because I am not the guy that wakes up and likes to build systems. But I realized out of necessity, as my business started to grow, if I didn't have a system in place, I was going to be trying to reinvent the wheel every time. I was actually going to create more stress, panic, and anxiety in my life and business by not doing this stuff. I had learned a term back in the 90s called McDonaldize. It's not even a real word, but the trainer called it McDonaldize your business. And he's referring to McDonald's. It's not my favorite place to go and eat, but they know how to push out food. And if you ever want to watch a great movie about business called The Founder. I believe it's on Netflix right now still. Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc, who is the guy that actually revolutionized McDonald's. McDonald's was founded by two brothers, McDonald brothers in California. Ray Kroc shows up and he was selling milkshake machines and saw an opportunity to franchise and multiply that business across not just California, but America, North America, and the world. And why? Because they had a system of making hamburgers and milkshakes and French fries. And that system made them more effective and efficient in what they were doing. For me, not that I'm not wired to be a systems guy, but I said, here's the things that I need to do and need to have in this system. Let's go make it. Let's go create it. Let's spend I'd rather be in a dentist chair, quite frankly, than building a system. Like, that's God honest truth. What I did, I built my system, and then once it was built, these books here, these workbooks that I would give out to sellers, to buyers, they were all pre-printed and ready. They were on a shelf. All I had to do is put a name on it, and I'm out the door. Not worried that I got a call from Matt, who I've been working on to sell his house for last year, and he called me and said, Mike, I'm ready to do it. I only got tonight to meet with you. Can you make it happen? Holy cow, I'm scrambling to create the whole package. 90% of it's done. Let's go do our CMA. Let's look at the marketplace. I'm off to the races. Stress, no stress. Make sense?
When you were an agent,
yep,
did you have any assistants, admins, buyer agents working with you, or teams?
Let's go through the list again.
General assistants, admins, personal admins.
Okay, that's a hard one for me to answer. I met my wife that way. So the answer is no and yes. In the last 3 years of my business. So my wife was from that other company that has balloons in their marketing. Okay, so my wife was with Remax, and she ran a big team actually, and so I met her at a Remax function. That's the balloon company, if you didn't know. And so in my last 3 years, yes, I had she was my administrator assistant.
Out of how many years total?
I started in '92. She came on board in 2004. So 12 years all by myself.
All by yourself, 3 with an admin.
Yeah.
You
by the way, let me back up, by the way. I brought her on because in 2004, I started my master's degree. FT, full-time student, 40 hours a week. So I brought her on because I needed to. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have hired her. Then I probably wouldn't have had a wife and kids.
Worked with buyer agents on a referral basis?
I worked, yes, referred.
And the teams?
Nope. Is there another? Okay. There's something that I did do though. That wasn't asked. I had a marketing. One of my marketing strategies for lead generation was in the RLP network. Remember I shared with you, I think it was last week, that I had gone to the Royal LePage convention in 2002 in Halifax. Met Phil Soper, who wasn't our CEO at the time, on a pub crawl. In this capacity, I did partner up with another realtor, and we shared expenses in the marketing to the Royal LePage network. Now, I had never gone to a convention for Royal LePage. This person had never gone to a convention either. And so both of us were a little bit, out of our element, what's this all about. And we knew though that we had to put ourselves out into the network, do some cool stuff. We actually, we had made up little flashlight pens with our names on them. And now, we have flashlights on our phones, but let's go back to 2002. You didn't have those things. And of course, at nighttime, if you're showing up at a property, unless the porch light's on, to try and open up a lockbox, you might be in the dark. So these things would be on people's keychains and light them up. That cost a lot of money. They're big pen lights. So she shared in the expenses. It was a she. Actually, I had sold her brother a house, and she was thinking into real estate. Her brother asked me if I could fill her in on like what's involved and whatnot. And I did. I sat down with her. She got her license and started working at our company. I was her mentor for years and years and years. Anyways, as I learned, going to this networking thing for Royal LePage, I was the rainmaker, the one that was making the relationships and getting the referrals together. She was more of the back end administrative part and doing the running around stuff that I didn't have the time for. In retrospect, I probably should never have done that. But I did because I didn't know what to expect for that. She's since retired from the business. She became listless. And even better, so we never were a partnership at all. We just, for this one thing, cooperated, let's call it. I had my entire own database. I lost one client, her brother, out of my database because of her coming into business. She, though, I like to think of myself as Cupid. One of my clients that was getting divorced, I introduced this fella to her, and they are now married and living in Costa Rica. They built a 5,000 square feet property on a mountain overlooking the ocean. They're happily married to this day, and I am Cupid. Thank you very much. So I'm not just selling your real estate, folks, putting relationships together. So any other questions? If not, we'll hopefully today was something valuable for you, some ideas. Again, your choice. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You figure out what your business is going to look like. And if your business can incorporate some of these ideas, great. I feel like I've accomplished something. If not, that's fine too, right? I mean, this is your business. Remember, we asked those questions. Want to be your own boss? Be your own boss. Make it happen. So we'll see you guys next week on Friday. In fact, I think every other class is Friday, right? So we're back to Friday. And I think we're talking about your fees next week. So we'll go through a whole bunch of commission dialogues. I think I do the casino close with them next week. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Awesome, folks. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we don't get any snow, because if we do, I might be going to the entire buying a snowblower. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.